Alberta County asserts no authority to assess data center climate pollution under EPEA. This is Environmental Intelligence, Episode 64, and Alberta County has declined to evaluate GHG emissions from a proposed data center, citing lack of jurisdiction under the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act. BC is advancing a 3-zone forest land allocation policy without prior First Nations notice. Nova Scotia has announced funding to cut landfill methane, while pipeline contracts for Ksi-Lisims LNG have been awarded, moving that project toward final investment decision. Practitioners should review how these developments affect current land use, permitting, and emissions compliance files this week. If you only note one thing today for your compliance calendar, confirm whether current projects in similar jurisdictions require separate federal or provincial GHG filings. The top regulatory change sits in Alberta, where a county interpretation of EPEA authority excludes data center GHG review. Monitor BC forest zoning policy rollout for impacts on timber harvesting and habitat permits. Consultants handling Phase 1/2 ESAs, EPEA applications, and landfill methane reduction projects in Alberta, BC, and Nova Scotia face the immediate effects. And Alberta County has stated it lacks authority to consider climate pollution from a proposed data center under the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act. The position limits municipal review of GHG contributions during permitting. This creates uncertainty for projects that previously relied on local governments to address emissions within broader environmental assessments. Consultants preparing EPEA applications or municipal approvals for large energy users should verify whether federal or provincial backstops now apply. Next steps include tracking any ministerial clarification or court challenge on jurisdictional scope. The development follows an internal county determination that GHG matters fall outside its EPEA mandate for this facility type. Practitioners should document the exact language of the county response for any parallel federal or provincial filings that may now be required. BC is preparing to divide forest lands into 3 use zones, a change communicated internally without advance consultation with First Nations. The move alters how harvesting, conservation, and development rights are allocated. Project teams with active or planned forestry-related site assessments should confirm updated land use designations before submitting applications. The policy shift was revealed through a government email and took First Nations by surprise. Consultants working on timber supply areas or habitat mapping in BC must now account for potential rezoning effects on existing permits and future applications. Contracts have been awarded for pipeline segments supporting the Ksi-Lisims LNG project. The awards advance the project toward final investment decision under existing federal and provincial permitting frameworks. Environmental professionals supporting LNG-related assessments should update cumulative effects and Fisheries Act compliance tracking. The contracts cover key infrastructure components that link the facility to existing transmission systems. Teams managing related environmental monitoring programs should review the updated project schedule for any new baseline or effects assessment requirements. Funding has been announced to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from landfills in Nova Scotia. The program targets methane capture and diversion infrastructure. Operators and consultants managing landfill sites should review eligibility criteria and reporting requirements under provincial climate rules. The announcement specifies support for projects that divert organic waste and install gas collection systems. Practitioners preparing closure plans or annual reports for Nova Scotia landfills should incorporate the new funding stream into compliance strategies. The county position signals that GHG considerations for data centers may shift to provincial or federal streams. This affects project timelines for emissions modeling and offset planning. Firms with data center or large load clients should map current approval pathways against EPEA and federal backstop rules. The reporter notes that the county explicitly disclaimed authority over climate pollution in its permitting process. Consultants should now treat similar applications as requiring separate GHG filings at higher government levels to avoid gaps in approval documentation. Consider a client submitting a municipal development permit for a data center expansion and the county returning the application without GHG review, stating the matter sits outside its EPEA mandate. The practitioner must decide whether to proceed with only municipal air quality parameters or initiate parallel provincial filing. Under EPEA, GHG reporting obligations attach to specified industrial activities and thresholds. Data centers fall into a gray zone where combustion or cooling loads may trigger federal output-based pricing instead. Experienced assessors cross-check the project's expected annual emissions against the federal backstop applicability list before assuming municipal silence closes the file. They also examine whether any combustion sources at the facility meet the definition of a regulated source under Alberta's industrial emissions rules. The most common mistake is treating a municipal no jurisdiction response as final clearance. The fix is to obtain written confirmation from Alberta Environment and Protected Areas on whether the facility meets any EPEA reporting trigger before the permit advances. This step prevents later enforcement exposure when provincial or federal reviewers examine the same project file. If you're working on data center or large load projects in Alberta, review EPEA applicability right away. Confirm updated forest land zoning maps before submitting BC timber or habitat-related site plans. Assess eligibility for Nova Scotia landfill methane reduction funding on active sites. Update internal checklists to flag potential federal GHG backstop requirements when municipal authority is declined. Verify cumulative effects tracking for Ksai Lissam's LNG pipeline segments against current Fisheries Act conditions. In the next briefing, watch for clarification from Alberta Environment on data center GHG jurisdiction. That's environmental intelligence for today. If this briefing is useful to your practice, share it with a colleague and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back with the next briefing. Have a productive day. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at NARA Network. Links in the show notes. One more thing, if you like today's episode, our sister show OmniView is worth a spot in your feed, a balanced daily world news briefing that takes every side seriously. It's one of the NARA Network's daily briefings, all free at naranetwork.com. New to the network? naranetwork.com Start Here picks the right daily briefing for you in about 2 minutes. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.